Dear partners, dear colleagues, dear friends, a very warm welcome to session number 8 of our virtual meeting series, GAWBL Connect. What a pleasure and honor indeed to have you with us today. Proudly, we are partnering with the SANAT Technical Assistance Facilities in this important virtual event series. So a massive thank you to our long-standing partners and friends at SANATAF and Finance in Motion, and here in particular to Elvira Lefting, Almudena Marquez, and Ole Nestingen for, and I'm very happy to be able to say, another outstanding cooperation. A huge thank you also to the European Union and the German Emirati Joint Council for Industry and Commerce, and here in particular to Oliver Oehms for their kind support. Another huge thank you goes out to Rebecca Schmidt for having designed our website. And as you can see, one hand does not clap. Together as partners, we are so happy to see that our GAWBL platform, which we founded to connect, to empower, and to engage with women across Germany, the Arab region, and the international community, is constantly growing. Yes, we are becoming more and more, and that is even more important in these difficult times. Times that require positive stories, stories that give hope, inspiration, and courage, showing ways, best practices, how to grow from challenges. And this is why we've set up impact stories. With impact stories, we want to shed light on the great projects and the women drivers behind. So today I am particularly happy to learn more from inspiring women from the financial sector, and I think still a largely male-dominated sector. So we want to discuss how to successfully boost gender-lens finance in support of women's financial inclusion. And yes, lady, let's talk about money. And this is why I'm all the more excited to welcome now our fantastic moderator and speakers today, sharing their enormous, very hands-on expertise on how to really be the agents of change for a more gender-balanced financial sector. And maybe you can hear my verbal drum roll now. Yasmina El Hosseini, joining us from Egypt, Head of Strategic Planning at the Export Development Bank of Egypt, and if I may add, a very close and dear friend of GAWBL, and perhaps also a familiar face to you who attended session 1 last year. And we were so excited and impressed by your expertise that we said, we definitely want more from you, Yasmina. So thank you for having accepted our invitation.
Thank you, Dr. Gabi.
A very warm welcome also to another impressive impact Fin lady today, Stephanie Petrick, impact investing expert and senior advisor impact investing at Finio. And I have to say, I was truly impressed by your CV, particularly because you have so many different areas of the financial sector to cover. And this is something I think this sector needs, the variety. And again, we agreed beforehand, as usual, that our wonderful moderator, Sarah Hessel, will introduce our speakers in more detail in a moment. So now it is my deep honor and great pleasure, Sarah, to introduce you to the audience. Sarah Hessel, you are heading the Positive Impact Management, as well as the impact and sustainability disclosures across all funds advised by Finance in Motion. Finance in Motion is a global impact asset manager who also advises the SANAT Fund for MSME and proudly our partner. And previously, you managed rural development projects at the United Nations International Fund for Agricultural Development. And again, I have to say, to be honest, dear Sarah, given also this profound, hands-on and highly diverse expertise, I couldn't think of a better fit today And so I'm very happy that you will be our moderator navigating us through the whole issue. And looking into this virtual round of concentrated Finn women power, I'm all the more excited and looking forward to an inspiring, engaging, and impactful session. And now, Sarah, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Gabi, for this kind introduction. Welcome, everybody. We're very happy to have you here with us. And I'm going to start with a question. Is the financial sector gender balanced or even gender inclusive? This webinar would probably not take place if the answer would be a straightforward yes, right? Looking at some of the figures from the financial sector globally, we see that while already increasing, women-led startups still receive much lower shares of financing compared to their male counterparts. Only 24% of the leadership roles in the financial sector are taken up by women. So it's a great pleasure to have two of them here with us today. Worldwide, 65% of those people without a bank account are women, which leaves more than 1 billion women without access to formal finance. At the same time, though, the topic of gender equality and gender equity is gaining momentum, also in the financial sector. Regulators like the EU are making reporting on gender equity indicators mandatory. Approaches such as gender lens investing are catching on, and first frameworks and initiatives such as the 2X initiative are being available to measure and report on this topic. And also asset owners are starting to change the way they consider diversity and inclusion matters in selecting asset managers to work with. A major investor association, for example, just recently launched a standard questionnaire to guide such reviews during a due diligence. So these are just some examples, and we'll be hearing more about changes and change makers in the webinar today. So all in all, I would say there's really no better time to look into this topic, and I'm delighted to have Yasmina and Stephanie with us, who are both seasoned finance professionals, and they represent very different regions and sectors. They both will provide us with some first-hand insights into the topic, and together we'll explore the drivers to make the financial sector more gender balanced and inclusive overall. We'll start the discussion with getting to know both of them a little bit better, understanding their experiences and the changes they've seen in the market, before we then dive into the different levers that we could all kind of pull at the institutional, the products and services, and the investment environment level. Before we get started, 2 quick points to our wonderful audience on housekeeping. We do want to hear from you, so please share your questions and comments in the chat. We'll have some time after each individual session, so the session with Stephanie and the session with Yasmina, and we'll have a Q&A in the end. So do feel free to post your comments and questions at any time. We'll be monitoring the chat. In addition to your kind of individual questions, we also want to assess your views and perspectives on core drivers and change makers. So throughout the event, we'll have some polling questions for you prepared, which Gabi will put up for you to cast your vote. So when the time comes, please do share your views. And with that, without further ado, let's go into the topic, and we'll start with Yasmina. Yasmina has been working in the Egyptian banking sector for over 20 years. In this time, she worked for 5 different institutions, and thereby did not only get to experience different institutional setups, but also really gained a diversified experience from working in both retail and corporate banking. Welcome, Yasmina, and thanks for being with us today. When we spoke earlier, you mentioned that when you started your career, there were hardly any other women working for that bank. Could you kick us off telling us about what made you get into finance, and what is your motivation today?
Well, the reason why I chose finance in Egypt, actually my mother was a banker, and it was a challenging job. But when I graduated from economic school, I thought that banking is quite interesting, and I looked at it from a different perspective. Having a minority of women in this field might give me a big chance to climb up the ladder and reach a strategic position, or maybe a very senior one. So I started as a customer service officer, and I climbed up the ladder working in different banks and different lines of business. And now I'm heading the strategic planning department at eBank, whereas financial inclusion is part of our mandate as strategic department. I see it a very interesting job. It is a man-dominated job in Egypt. However, the vision of the Central Bank of Egypt and the country's vision is to empower women on all fronts, including financial institutions.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for that. I mean, you already alluded to it. You spent more than 20 years in the financial sector. What change did you see happen? I mean, you now already said the central bank has been pushing kind of the gender sensitivity topic. Can you describe us what has changed since you started working?
A lot of regulations have changed, and a lot of phenomena changed as well. So on the regulation side, for example, the percentage of women representation in bank boards reached 12% in 2019, up from 10% in 2018. And I have to mention that it was not mandatory to have women on board before that. So having at least 2 women on board in any financial institution is becoming a must. And this law has a lot of impact on empowering women and giving a real chance for women to hold executive positions. This is one of the aspects. There are many national initiatives to empower women, and the scope of these initiatives is mainly driven by the president himself, the cabinet, and the government, whereas financial inclusion of women is becoming a must. In parallel, we've seen so many developmental organizations in Egypt empowering women. For example, the launch of UNFPA program in Egypt, where this program specifically is mandated to support adolescent girls in Upper Egypt to help them earn their bread, to help them be financially independent. And actually, we as eBank, we collaborated with them through signing an MOU where we will support these girls by financial inclusion literacy programs and teach them how to save money, how to be bankable, and how to get access to finance. This is a simple example of what's going on the ground now.
Mm-hmm. I think, yeah, you mentioned already 2 kind of really, I would say, powerful aspects in kind of changing behavior, which is, for one, kind of like more the top-down approach of regulation, but then also at the same time kind of the bottom-up approach of kind of empowerment and literacy. What is your role in it? Like, how do you bring about change in your day-to-day work?
Actually, I'm trying to balance my selection in building my team. For example, this is one thing. I'm trying to heading the financial inclusion team in building the strategy. We are prioritizing financial inclusion of women specifically, because financial inclusion means men, women, youth, other minorities. But actually, we as eBank, we selected a segment within this minority to be women and young women specifically, because for those for our audience who don't know some aggregate figures about Egypt, the population of Egypt is 1 or 2 million. We are one of the largest populations in the region. And for example, we have the private sector employment enrolling 18%. It consists of 18% of women, while public sector employment consists of 36% of women. Literacy among women is 71%, while among men is 65%. So maybe the demographics in Egypt are different than Europe, or maybe different than what Stephanie will share with us, but you have to learn about the economy, the demographics, the geography we're speaking about, so that you can imagine the challenges we have. I hope I answered the question.
Yes, very well questioned. What would you say, kind of as my final question for the time being, is on the horizon for women in Egypt? Kind of what are kind of the next big challenges to address?
I think access to finance is one of them, and holding more executive positions and key roles on the financial side.
Mm-hmm. Good.
It's progressing, but there is a lot to do.
I think we can definitely agree on that globally, not only in Egypt.
Yeah. And I think I have to mention as well that one of the victories of Egyptian women is that by Feb 2021, 27% of Egyptian parliament seats are held by women. And this is actually a big victory for Egyptian women.
Absolutely. Thank you, Yasmina.
Thank you.
We'll come back to you and the Egyptian experiences and practices, but now kind of move to Germany and to Stephanie. As I mentioned earlier, our second guest comes with quite a different background. Stephanie Patrick brings more than 15 years of experience in advising private investors, family offices, investment funds, foundations, and international corporations in Europe and the US. Prior to her work in the impact investing sector, where she's now, she worked in private equity. So welcome, Stephanie. And also to you, the question, what made you get into finance? And then particularly, what made you switch to impact investing, and what motivates you today in it?
So thank you for the introduction. And what made me go into finance? I guess my initial interest was in money as being a very powerful driver for change and for making things happen. And I think I still have this excitement about it. But then after a while, kind of in my career developed that maybe money is not everything, and maybe you could use this power of change to drive positive change. And I have been active as a philanthropist before. I was kind of active with NGOs, and when like 10 years ago the idea of impact investing spilled over to Germany, I was one of the first ones to switch and join the sector. And it's really this motivation which still keeps me excited today, is really changing the world by using money as a driver, you know. And as you mentioned before, I worked a lot with family offices, foundations, so wealthy, people. And I like that idea of, doing good by doing well, and, being a catalyst to help people use their money to drive, the good.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, you also, I mean, you've seen different parts of the kind of the investment world, but what would you say kind of changed over those the time when you joined to today, and so both kind of in the institutions that you worked for, kind of the companies, but also in terms of the products and services that are being offered? Are they becoming more gender inclusive?
Mm-hmm. So what I found particularly interesting about our discussion today is that Yasmina has seen, or has the background and experience of big banks, and I have quite the contrary. I worked for small funds a lot in the venture capital, private equity industry, and advising them. And therefore, I think what has changed, there is clearly since few years a big push towards gender equality, but we're nowhere near there. But I'm actually quite happy that the topic is on the agenda. It was certainly driven by legislation as well. For example, the EU taxonomy. Maybe big institutional investors and banks, they were at the forefront, but finally it also spilled down to, for example, the venture capital industry, and ESG criteria and, reporting on gender equality is becoming a standard now. And we see more and more positions also in those asset managers and funds being available to women. Particularly, actually, a lot of funds are currently particularly looking for women to, gender balance their workforce, which is a good thing, a very good thing. but we're not near any equality. So I hope the trend will continue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so interesting that we see already a parallel on kind of the regulatory power, let's say, for both Egypt and then in the European market. And also I thought the point on reporting is interesting because, I mean, there's this saying, what gets measured gets done. So of course, also in order to be able to report something and report progress, companies have to implement related changes. One question also for you, what would you say kind of is your role in bringing about change? I mean, you already mentioned your interest in philanthropy, but what do you do in kind of like your sphere of influence to bring about change?
Yeah. I think I've been, I sort of tried the same route as Yasmina has also mentioned. I mean, you know, in my teams, in my roles to just promote and inspire women, foster, help them to grow, you know. And then what I can say, what has developed over the last years in Germany in different fields are remarkable networks of powerful women that actually sort of work together and help each other, you know, to overcome obstacles, to share jobs, opportunities, just what men have been doing for a very long time, I feel. And this is actually a great development. And I participate in a few of them. For example, there's Ella Impact, which is an female impact investor network, and another one where I don't participate, but which is very powerful as well as, for example, Fondsfrauen. It's you know, a network of female you know, asset managers and females in the banking industry. And I had them once as a guest on one of my panels, because whenever there's an opportunity to speak about gender lens investing, gender equality or anything, I take it. And I think that Fondsfrauen is a very good, you know, network as well. But there, I am sure, are others, but that's, I feel, is very helpful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great. So we touched now on quite a few kind of strategic levers already, and we'll now kind of go into our first polling question. Gabi, if you could bring that up to also see what the audience thinks.
So here we go.
First question. Exactly.
Here
what
we
do you
go.
think, what from your perspective is required to make financial institutions more gender sensitive? Is it supportive regulation? We already touched on the examples from the Egyptian central bank or the European Union. Is it disclosure requirements to report on gender balance? Is it strong women leaders? Is it the growing share of female investors who also kind of push certain topics or kind of select the partners they work with differently? I realize we don't have a all of the above response. So I would say choose the one that you feel is most powerful.
So the answers are coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And it's multiple choice, which is interesting.
It is, okay. So people
yes.
can take it in. Okay.
So there are more options still coming in. Still coming in. Okay, I think. So in the meantime, Anne-Marie de Jong is asking names of the funds, Ella and Fond Frauen. Perhaps, Stephanie, you could share the websites. That would be great.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now I think all answers are in. Let's have a look at the results.
Interesting. Good. Stephanie, when we spoke before for the call, you actually said it's going to be the women who change the market, and we have more women asset owners. So what do you think about the result that this was the highest voted?
Yeah, I can only speak from my perspective, right? As I said, it has been in private equity, to private debt, and venture capital, and I just found from personal experience that female wealth owners make a huge difference in those sorts of structures. But maybe Yasmina, I guess, will have maybe a different view on that, or maybe the same. That would be more interesting because this is just personal experience. And by the way, I also have to add that not only have female investors been a driver for gender equality on the asset manager side, but also have they been a driver for, sustainability and impact. What's happening with the money seem to be more important to female investors. I've read a number of studies on that, and I experienced it myself as well. So this is a very good influence of female wealth holders, and we see it from statistics, at least here in Germany and also in Europe. There's more and more women inheriting money from their families and taking an active role in investing it, not just giving it to their family office, but to really take the responsibility and the obligation and take care of what happens to that money. And I think that's a very positive development.
Yeah, I mean, indeed, people, like studies do say that women lead and shape also the impact investing market, and that kind of focus on sustainable investments. Yasmina, what is your perspective on Egypt? Do you see a similar trend in kind of women asset ownership?
Yes, definitely. I agree with Stephanie. Absolutely agree with her views, because we see that this phenomena is repeated in Egypt on different fronts, and especially on the asset side. But I have to tell you, on the soft skills side related to females in Egypt, we have also adopted some sort of she for she programs or women mentorship programs, where women in leadership positions are supporting young women in the same field or even different fields. And as of yesterday, for example, we as eBank, we had a women walk, a mentor and mentee walk in a big garden in Cairo, and women from different industries, where the chat was mainly revolving around the experience of each and the success story of each, and how to make new leaders for the future, new female leaders. And actually, I am one of graduates of some of a women mentorship program in Egypt, and I had a stride in my career due to this program specifically. So I believe such programs, she for she programs, are very useful.
Well, I mean, they do say that if you have women in leadership, it's more likely that more women will kind of follow, because you have someone who kind of open the doors and have that network. There's also actually studies that say that companies and teams that are more diverse perform better. How do the two of you kind of assess this statement? Is that something you have a view on? I mean, you both said you try to establish diverse teams.
I personally agree with this.
Yeah, I guess me too. And I just wanted to point out that gender is just one aspect of diversity. I mean, there's very many other fields why you should have, or in which ways your team should be diverse. And I think the more diverse they are, in my experience, the better they work together. It has been, at least in my personal experience, always been inspiring. But yeah, I just wanted to come back to the poll that you had before, because we totally quickly went over the aspect of regulation and legislation. And I think what I experienced, at least here in Germany, it has helped quite a lot to make sure that this is the direction to go for everybody. I mean, in the field I work, there are no quota for women at the moment, but just to bring up the the topic of sustainability, and yes, gender equality is an important part of that, has helped a lot in the discussion, and with even reluctant, I guess, players in the industry to move. So I just wanted to point out that this is not to be forgotten.
Not to be disregarded,
driver.
Absolutely. And I think we touched on regulation quite a bit already. I mean, I remember when they discussed the quota for listed companies in Germany, a lot of kind of boards were concerned, or would say there are no qualified women. What is your response to that?
That's not true. It's just simply not true. Yeah. It's not true.
Yeah, and I mean, the figures Jasmina presented in the beginning also show that, once you have a quota, then there will be women who kind of fill in. And
not only in finance, for example, in medicine is more men dominated, especially in surgeons and so on, as well as engineering and mechatronics, for example, some sophisticated nanotechnology. These are fields male dominated, that I believe if any woman has the capability to develop her skills and upskill herself in such areas where women representation is very rare, she will stand a very high chance to grow at exponential rate more than men. I believe so. So we are capable.
Sarah, we've got a question. We've got a question coming from the audience, I think, to both of you, Jasmina and Stephanie. How big are your teams? How big are your teams?
I have a team of 18 subordinates.
Wow.
And like 40% are women.
Yeah, I guess the last team I had was 7 people, and 60% of that were female.
I hope that responded. I hope that responded the question. And I mean, as Stephanie said, like we're focusing in on gender today, but of course, kind of diversity covers much more and different aspects as well, inclusion.
Sarah, I believe the beauty of having female subordinates is that we know the challenges each and every one of them is suffering from, as a young mother, for example, as a single mother, maybe, as a student sometimes. So having female subordinates, there is a lot of common aspects where you can easily understand the challenges and support in her journey. That's the beauty of it.
Good. And I think that's perfect closing words for this kind of first question. So let's now move on to kind of question number 2. Gabi, if you could pull it up. Exactly. So this time we want to know from you, what do you think is more effective in increasing access to women to finance for women? For one, mainstreaming gender, so really making sure it's integrated into all processes and all products and services, or on the other hand, developing and offering special products.
Okay, answers are coming in. And now it's single choice.
So now you really have to choose.
You have to choose. In the meantime, we have a question coming from Husa. What is the percentage of female in Egypt who are heading banks or financial institutions? Do you have a figure?
Yeah, of course. We have 38 banks in Egypt, and 3 chairpersons are ladies only. So that's very little, and I hope it grows in the future.
Thank you. So let's wait a few more seconds. Still coming in. Apparently it's not so easy to decide, huh?
Tricky question.
I know.
It is a tricky question.
Well done on that.
Okay, here we go. So let's have a look.
Good. So the majority votes for mainstreaming gender. At the same time, we also see quite a large range of kind of women-focused products being developed. Yasmina, Stephanie, how is it in the markets and sectors where you work in? And what's your opinion on this? I'm curious about that. Yasmina, do you want to go first this time?
Go ahead, Stephanie.
Yeah. So when I read the question, and now I would immediately, go for mainstreaming gender was the right direction to go. However, I have actually seen, or I'm not quite sure, I've just seen a development in the venture capital industry where, female venture funds that only fund female startup founders come up. There's a, one that has been spoken about quite a lot here in Germany. It's called GAWBL. And they just started, I guess they closed their first fund, but we'll see if this could help to actually balance the gender imbalance that you spoke about before, which was that, female founders just don't have the same level of access to finance and financing and investments as male founders have. So I'm curious to see if this works and if this brings more gender balance. But the end goal should be that no matter which gender you have equal access to financing your startup ideas, right? So we'll see.
Thanks for that.
At eBank, we are we are one of the very few banks who our chairperson is a lady. So we are lucky to have Mrs. Mervat Sultan as our chairperson. And at the same time, we are mandated to boost Egyptian experts. That's why we have developed a gender-based product called Expo Lady, where we select women in senior positions, either owning the business or in executive positions, who are exporting to other markets. And we have designed this product to cater for their needs, their business, their industries, and it is a very well structured, simplified, fast-track program where they can have access to finance in their trade business, either locally or cross-border.
Mm-hmm. And what would you say is different about this product?
I think this product attends to their needs because it was developed in collaboration with Sanad. Maybe I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but they gave us a big hand in developing this product, and it is doing great in the market because none of our competitors in the market have developed a gender-based product for exporters specifically. It was done based on market research, market analytics, either horizontal or vertical, so that they can have a tailored product attending to different segments like textile, cosmetics, food and beverage, and FMCGs.
Mm-hmm. And you touch on a really important point because you say it's based on market research. Do you feel, apart from this product, we know sufficiently enough, or we have enough data about women as financial consumers to kind of really no?
I don't know about Germany, but definitely in Egypt, the little that we know, we capitalize on it in developing products. But I think data mining is not really available in order to do proper analysis. But I think there is a lot to do in this aspect.
Yeah, so a data gap to fill. Stephanie, how is it in Germany or the markets where you operate in?
Well, actually, I would need to look up the figures. I don't really have any current figures.
But the question was more like, do we know enough, or like, do we have enough segmentation information? Because, I mean, I'm just speaking kind of for the German market. Again, there's now an increasing offer of kind of financial literacy offers, right? Which is like, and it's always kind of, everyone is very generalizing, saying women have kind of, I don't know, women don't like to approach financial topics, but it's always very generalized. And do you feel there's sufficient data segmentation available to really tailor products and services to women and to kind of create that access and to close that gap?
I guess the part of the market that I see is a different one. I'm not so much in the consumer products or the whole, consumer market. So I told you before, I rather work with wealth holders and a lot in venture capital and private equity and so on. So this is, I guess, a different part of the market. Don't feel like I could really talk to that.
Good. Then I would say let's move to the next question. Final question. Gabi, do the honors.
Here we go.
So with this final question, we wanted to kind of take a broader perspective and see what has to change in kind of the environment that everyone is operating in to both increase the offer, but also the uptake. So it's one option is increased financial literacy. Yasmina already provided an example on that. Raising awareness and confidence. I think we also heard about these mentorship programs that kind of aim towards that, or a change in mindset. I mean, kind of that. Let's talk about money, and can kind of women in financial sector kind of change that mindset that it's also perfectly fine for women to kind of address that topic and to be comfortable in this. So curious to hear what you think.
So let's wait for the answers. Results are coming in. Again, it was multiple choice. Still waiting. Don't be shy. Interesting. So let's just wait 2 more seconds. Do we have all your votes? Okay, here we go. So let's have a result. Look at the results here.
So the majority change in mindsets, increase financial literacy, and raise awareness and confidence. Change in mindsets, that's a tough nut to crack. Yasmina, Stephanie, how do you see kind of these priorities, and what would be could be concrete actions to go about it?
To me, raising financial literacy is quite important because from on the ground experience, we have developed or initiated the new financial inclusion department back in March 2021. And ever since, we have managed to run 152 literacy sessions to youth in universities where most of them, 50% of them were women. And we managed to open around 2,000 new to bank accounts. I think these sessions played a vital role to explain everything about the fundamentals of banking, why to hold an account, how to increase your savings, how to go digital. And these are free sessions. We are doing them for free, and our colleagues at eBank are volunteering to give these sessions. And we've heard so many positive feedback and many requests to have internships at eBank due to these sessions. So face-to-face sessions definitely work better than remote and virtual ones. But I think raising awareness and literacy is really key to make it.
What could be, I mean, because it is always a bit of a pull and push question, right? So because you make that offer, and do only kind of women who are already interested in this topic come to you, or do you also go out to kind of really push that topic among people who might not be reached otherwise by your information?
You mean the audience of the session?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we reach out. Our criteria is reach out to youth in remote areas, not in Cairo, the capital. We move out of Cairo. We move to areas where the standard of living is an average or below average one, and we try to touch base with with the youth there to just to create a connection between them and the financial sector in Egypt. And I think ever since we started this initiative, it was working very well, and we had very positive feedback, and our team has a lot of passion to grow it and nurture it here on here.
Wonderful. Stephanie, how do you kind of assess these responses, and what would be your priority among them?
The thing is, I think it's difficult to pick a priority. I think you have to attack the problem from various sort of sides to be successmina, and a lot of things that we already discussed today is important, I guess. Yasmina has mentioned, for example, the mentorship program and the role of successful women in the industry. I think that's a very important point. Then I talked about the networks, for example. I feel this has been helpful as well. But together with, for example, regulation and disclosure requirements, it's kind of a whole package, and I feel the whole package is going on at the moment, at different levels. Different actors actually put this topic on their agenda, and I feel it's still not enough. So we have to continue to do what we're doing, and actually bringing up our efforts to reach gender equality in the financial industry. So it's we're already doing things, but it needs, it needs to come from a lot of different players in various ways to actually solve the issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a perfect and very beautiful summary of this discussion. So I would now open to questions from the audience. Did we already receive any, Gabi?
Not so far, but one question would be, or one pledge would be, to share the information of the websites and the products you were mentioning, so as to connect. That would be great. And I would have a question, a question that was in the Q&A. As for the female wealth holders, Stephanie, you were mentioning that they do invest kind of differently. How do you see that change, or how can we boost that change to attract more, let's say, female wealth holders to invest even more? As this has an impact.
Yeah. It does have, but I guess again, amongst female wealth holders, the same true what I said before for generally people going in the financial industry, when they see that others that are in their position take the responsibility for their wealth and actively invested or have a more active say in what's happening with the money, they maybe feel confident to do that as well. And I guess there's also networks building up on that side. For example, there is an impact investing program specifically for wealth holders at the University of Zurich. The institute is called CSP. it's not particularly for female wealth holders, but what I hear, there's a lot of female wealth holders that go into that impact investing program, and I hope that they use this network and the knowledge as well, for their future decisions, and to attract others to, dare and go their way.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. So we've got another question coming from Regina Ribalev, also a very dear friend of GAWBL and moderator of one of the previous sessions. So what are practical examples of female inclusion from your own experience where you personally contributed, performed, led something on your own? So practical examples of female inclusion from your sphere of influence.
Maybe beyond kind of the team composition, which we already discussed.
So maybe I start because actually I said before, I've tried to raise this topic and bring it on the agenda, but I'm not exclusively a female investor, or exclusively consult to females, or promote female products. So it was more in my personal interest, and therefore what I particularly did, for example, is bringing the topic to panels. I was invited to moderating myself panels on the topic, building up networks, bringing people together. This was most of what I did. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah. So raising awareness and kind of having the voices included, I think that's always kind of a key aspect. And luckily, we moved away from having all male panels and on these topics, more or less.
Yeah, and maybe we should, talking about networks, just because we haven't mentioned it, it's the Gender Lens Investing Summit. That's very successful over the last couple of years, where a large part of the industry meets every year to discuss issues, everything from reporting disclosures to new products, and it's just a global movement that has been built there. So, but I can share the website afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. So, Sarah, we have another comment from Sana Bardawil, also a very dear friend and partner of GAWBL, and also another moderator of a previous session. Thank you for a very interesting discussion. Women have a different approach to managing risk, including financial risk. In the current climate, is this not a good opportunity for more women investors? Interesting aspects. Who wants to comment on this? Stephanie, would that be a question for you or Jasmina?
I think Jasmina hasn't spoken to the last one, so I leave it to her to pick up the.
Well, I believe I was looking at the statistics, but unfortunately, yes, here it is. I believe that women calculate the risks quite well, and they know how to manage the risks. And from a lender perspective, or as since we have women as borrowers of microfinance loans, for example, Egyptian women receive 51% of micro business loans with a percentage of default less than 1%. So you can see that they are quite diligent, they are quite responsible, and they pay back their loans, and they build very good credit history with their lenders. So I think this is a great example.
Excellent point.
Thank you.
Also for the banks, right? It's interesting or important to know that risk calculation is done. Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Good. So, I mean, with that, we actually already reached our time limit. I would like to give Stephanie and Jasmina both like each a sentence or a minute each to kind of and I know, Stephanie, you said we need to tackle it holistically, but what would your wish be for kind of also what can every one of us do in our daily life? Like what's the kind of focus that you would set for the participants in this year to strengthen gender balance and inclusiveness?
Mm-hmm. So I hope each of you is going out of the session with maybe their own ideas what they could do. But the reason why I take part in those sessions is always because you meet so many other interesting women, and which always helps to make the network tighter and be more successful as a group. So whenever anybody wants to contact me on LinkedIn and help make the network tighter, then I'm more than happy. And I'm so curious to hear what your views are and how you contribute to gender equality in the financial industry. And I'm looking forward to it. And just one last thing, I said before, Gender Lens Investing Summit, but they changed their names. I just looked it up. They're called Gender Smart Investing now, and it's led by Susan Beagle, who's a very loud voice in the industry since many years. So I can definitely recommend connecting to that.
Thank you. So we have already a follow-on event to look forward to.
Sounds good.
Yasmina, same question to you.
My message to all ladies here is to never be afraid of any industry, of any business, or any new frontier you want to cross. I think we are all capable of doing it. So be brave, create disruptive change wherever you go, and leave a big footprint wherever you go, and leave a legacy behind you. You are capable to do your job in a perfect way, upscale yourself, enrich your knowledge as much as possible, and I'm sure you will reach the sky.
And with that, I'm handing back over to you, Gabi.
Ladies, Finn ladies, thank you so much for this utmost interesting session. I learned so much, being also one of the illiterate financial ladies. So that was really great. So we are indebted to you, Sarah. Excellent moderation. Thank you so much. Yasmina, Stephanie, thank you so much for sharing your holistic approach, your views on the many different facets we need to get this financial sector more gender balanced. I have one final pledge. Please, participants, your feedback is important to us. Therefore, we would like to ask you now to take a moment for a final poll. Only 3 questions. It's anonymous and it's only for internal use, because for us, it is important that we get your feedback on our sessions. And while you are giving your feedback, I would like to take the opportunity again to thank you all, because it was really amazing. I learned a lot. And you said, yes, putting the topic on the agenda. This is what we did. Strengthening the network. This is our idea. And please keep on doing that. We as GAWBL will be back in summer. Then with our virtual networking event on the important topic of scaling up women in green business. And here again, financing is important. Together with our partner, the Green for Growth Fund, again, another fund of the Finance in Motion family that specializes in sustainability. So expect amazing speakers again, as today, inspiring discussions and great network opportunities with our experts. We are really looking forward to this important event and hope you will join us again. Definitely, we will keep you posted. And in the meantime, stay well, stay safe and healthy, and hopefully see you then in summer. So the poll has been finished. I will take my screenshots. Just a second. As I said already, this is just for internal use. Well, this is it. Thank you so much. Bye-bye, Yasmina. Bye-bye, Stephanie. Bye, Sarah. And hope to see you very soon. Thank you for this amazing session.
Thank you. Bye.